I'd run out of shops crying with my mum because I didn't want to shop in the girls section because I felt like I looked like a boy, and I didn't, but I felt like that. But I couldn't shop in the boys section because I was a girl.
The Funny Francis and Draay podcast.
Welcome to the Funny Francis and Draay podcast. I go by the name of Funny Francis. Big belly for the big telly. Your grandmother's favourite care home visitor.
Yo, it's Draay. We don't play and we're filming another episode of the podcast today. But today's a bit different. Why is it different?
Because today we have a guest. Yeah. Woo! And I'm happy to welcome Mr. Jaxon Feeley onto the podcast. Jackson's a transgender activist, motivational speaker, TV personality, and from what I've seen, just an all-round positive guy, which is a rare commodity in this day and age. Used to be known as Jessica before embarking on a life-changing transition from female to male. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Jaxon Feeley to the podcast. Give him a round of applause. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, mate. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you very much.
Come on.
Yeah?
Appreciate it, yeah.
How was the journey getting here?
Yeah, it was all right, yeah. Not too bad.
Yeah. First time in Coventry, or you been here before?
I don't know, actually. Maybe. Probably the first time.
What do you think of it?
Shit all it.
I mean, I've seen like 2 minutes
No,
of it.
come on, don't say
I've
that.
seen the train
Don't say
station and a
that. Don't say
taxi and this fucking hat. That's what I've seen.
This is a centurion, bro. I've just come from the battle of
He's left the city for a few hours and this is what he's come to see.
Yeah.
come to see the Roman Emperor. Who don't want to see the Roman Emperor? But yeah, what though? Obviously, like.
That's all I need to see of Coventry. I'm done.
Yeah, fairs. Get out of here, quick time.
But yeah, I hope my intro to you did some justice there. But I'll allow you to add some meat to the skeleton, I should say. Like, just let the audience know who you are, what you do, and like your journey so far.
That's a big question. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it all. I've literally been on a mission to inspire as many people as possible to live a life more true to themselves, whatever that might mean. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not just about being trans. It's sort of part of who I am. It's had a massive impact, and so I'm just sort of on that mission and trying to make it as normal and fun as possible.
Okay, that's good. I have to ask, what cologne you wearing? Because it's smelling saucy.
Oh,
was it Paco Rabanne 1 million?
No.
Tom Ford.
Yes, I think it might be.
Tom Ford, innit?
It might be.
Which one?
I'm gonna have to check in my bag.
Okay,
It's Christmas
that's
present.
smelling serious on the landing.
Yeah, it's nice
Flavour
though,
ton
isn't
up.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let Francis know quick time.
Okay, I need to buy 2 bottles
I'll
of
show
that.
you before. It looks like a grenade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what he's talking about.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty, yeah, because this is what the audience are here for, yeah, to be educated, yeah,
Yeah.
to learn about you and learn about the transgender thing as a whole, yeah. So let's start off by, I would just want to ask you, like, so for the audience at home who are unsure, just define the word transgender. What is it?
So a transgender person is someone who doesn't identify with the biological sex that they was assigned at birth. Mm-hmm. So I was assigned female at birth, biologically, which means, you know, a doctor looks at a baby and based entirely on genitalia goes, that's a boy, that's a girl. And anyone who doesn't identify with exactly that is classed as a transgender individual, whether that's someone who identifies as a complete opposite. So for me, I identify as a transgender man. But there's lots of people who identify in terms of non-binary, gender neutral, you know, completely fluid with the gender. But I can obviously only speak from my own experience, which is female to male.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. So, in your definition, like, how would you distinguish or define the characteristics or differences between male and female? Are they as black and white as people make out?
No, definitely not. No, absolutely not.
How do you perceive them, or how do you define them?
So you've got sex and gender, which are 2 completely different things. A lot of people think they're the same. So your sex is what you was biologically assigned at birth, like I was just saying then. So a doctor literally looks at a baby and thinks, right, that's a girl, that's a boy, based entirely on your genitalia. When I'm not a scientist, but biologically there are actually a hell of a lot more chromosomes that make people actually on a spectrum of gender. So that's your biological sex. Your gender can be split into 2 things. So you've got your gender identity and your gender expression. Your gender expression.
I've heard that before. Gender expression.
So
okay.
So I don't want to go all like teacher, but I'll tell you.
No, that's
Yeah,
what we're
no,
here
that's
for.
what
We're here
you're
to
here for,
educate.
yeah.
Okay.
Don't hold back, my brother, because I've just come from war, so I'm looking to learn everything right now. Yeah.
So you've got your gender identity and your gender expression, right? Your gender expression is how you present yourself, what you were more inclined to like. So, for example, you've got masculine on one side and feminine on the other, and the majority of people sort of sit in the middle. So everyone has got masculine traits, feminine traits, but you might have a male who is really, really masculine and dresses masculine and acts masculine, but you might have a female who's a tomboy who likes to dress masculine, who's got very masculine traits about them, but identifies as female, but their expression is very masculine. You might have a male who their expression is very feminine. So, you know, a lot of the time, a lot of gay men have more of a feminine expression. They like to dress a little bit more feminine or act a little bit more feminine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically, the majority of human beings really sort of sit in the middle where they're not like super masculine and they're not super feminine. You might, everyone, in terms of your emotions, how you dress, the toys you play with, how you talk, what, you know, everything sort of changes. That's your gender expression. Your gender identity is whether you identify with the sex that you was assigned at birth.
Okay.
So my identity doesn't connect with me being born female and me having to conform to society's idea of what feminine and female is.
Yeah.
And it's not just how I want to express myself, it's how I feel in myself and who I am.
So is there a difference between wanting to express that and innately being that?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So that's why I say you've got, say, you know, male and female identifying people who might love who they are and feel comfortable in their body, in identifying as what they were born as from being a baby, but they are happy to express themselves in either a very feminine or a very masculine or a very neutral way and might change on a daily basis. Whereas people with gender dysphoria cannot and really struggle to connect with the body that they've been given, and it causes a hell of a lot of mental discomfort and struggles that come with that, and that's why people go through a hell of a lot of sort of, you know, counselling and consultations to sort of identify whether you are gender dysphoric or whether you're just struggling with obviously sexuality can come into it, and conforming to society and your surroundings and what you think you have to be and all those things, if that makes sense.
I'm with you. It's good that you mentioned gender dysphoria because we'll definitely touch on that later on in the podcast. So from your understanding or from your experience, what traits, because you mentioned traits, what traits would you say you exhibited before you transitioned compared to the traits you exhibit now? In terms of the male and female conversation? Is there any that overlap or similar, or since the transition have they been?
Yeah, definitely. So before I say anything else, I can only speak from my own experience.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone
of
is
course,
very different, and not everyone will agree with what I say or feel.
Of course.
In terms of being before, so a lot of people ask me like, how did you know? Or when did you know?
Yeah.
And there's kind of two answers to the question, because I didn't really figure out that I was or needed to transition until I was like 26, 27 years old. Like, it was not in my mind. Yeah. But when I look back now, I absolutely knew from being like the age of 4 or 5. I just didn't have the vocabulary to verbalise how I was feeling, because that didn't exist. You know, when I was young, like 20 years, 25 years ago, no one knew what transgender was. The only visibility that people understood was a trans woman, and as soon as people hear that word transgender, they just think, and people still do, they just think man in a dress, because the only representation within the media was a big burly man in a dress being the trans woman, or, you know, the prostitute who always gets murdered who is obviously a man in a dress. Does that make sense?
And just for the audience, a typical man in a dress, is that a transvestite? Or what's the term for that?
I don't know the sort of like specific.
Okay.
Because you've got like transvestite, crossdresser, all those things.
Okay.
Which I'm not like. I wouldn't want to comment on something that I don't know everything about. But that was the only representation that people knew. So that's what they said. You know, transvestite or transsexual. That's the only thing people saw. So being young, that's never something that I ever thought about until I literally ended up in like a YouTube hole at the age of 26 and started to find these trans men, because I'd gone years of struggling with my mental health and always trying to chase something I couldn't find and trying to fill a void. So it took me a long time to sort of realise that actually this is me and this is what I have to do if I want to continue to be here.
So when you talk about understanding from a young age but not being able to articulate what that was, at what point or what age in your life would you say the trigger or the kind of initiation within you for you to begin to articulate what you're feeling? When do you think that came about?
In terms of being transgender, when I was about 26.
Okay, so quite late in life, shall we say?
Yeah, so I was always.
But you said you felt that from 5 years old.
But looking back now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I look back now, obviously I was always a tomboy. I was always, wanted to like play with the boys or play football or do things that were stereotypically masculine. But it's the little things that I look at now that show me why I was always looking to find the real me. So like, for example, I convinced my mum and dad that I needed to move school at 14 for no reason whatsoever. I just had like an urge in me that I needed to go and find the real me. But I didn't know what that meant. I just had this like pull, like I need to move school. I need to start again. And in my mind, I was thinking I can go and it'd be a new school and then I can be the real me. But I didn't know what that meant. So then I convinced them and I moved. And 2 months later, I wanted to move back.
Okay.
Because nothing changed. Like I was just in the same position, but then I'd walked away from like all my friends and everything that actually made me a little bit happy. So it was that kind of always trying to fill a void. Like
you were searching for something.
Yeah, like I was searching for something, but I couldn't find it. Yeah,
for.
And I always felt like really uncomfortable in girls' clothes. Like I'd run out of shops crying with my mum because.
Yeah.
I didn't want to shop in the girls section because I felt like I looked like a boy. And I didn't, but I felt like that. But I couldn't shop in the boys section because I was a girl. And there was just always something like really off. Like my mum was telling me the other day about, shopping for a prom dress and I was sort of really uncomfortable. Like I look like a boy, And I was saying these things, but I didn't think I want to be a boy. I was just feeling these things, and I would always get told like if I fell out with a friend or the lads in school, they'd be like, "Why are you mates with Jess? She's a man."
Okay, yeah.
Or like I'd be like, people would come up to me in pubs, and I'm like, got longer and heels and a dress on. They'd be like, "You a bloke?" Or like I'd get kicked out of women's toilets, and I didn't look like a man, but I felt like I did. So there must have been some sort of energy, like something there that made people push this narrative. And at the time it broke my heart because I didn't want to be a woman who looked like a man. I didn't want to be a man who looked like a woman. I just wanted to be myself, but I didn't know what that was, and I was really, really trying to be that girl who I thought I was supposed to be. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we break this in simple terms? It's like the inner you was trying to break out but didn't know how to.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Okay.
I was searching for something, but I
Hence
didn't
why
know.
moving school and wanting to go back.
Yeah,
and
like I didn't know what it was. I was like, right, I'll buy a new car, that'll fix it. Because I was feeling like depressed and not okay. Or a new car had fixed me for 2 weeks. Like I joined the military, that fixed me for 4 years. I did all these things, but that void would always run out. And then I would just hit a brick wall again. I'm like, why am I so anxious? Why am I so uncomfortable? Obviously I was a gay woman for 10 years. I thought that was it at one point. I thought, I've cracked it. I've come out now. I'm I've accepted I'm gay and this and that. But all these things had time limits. So it was only when I actually started to think, what is it? Like, why can't I fix this? That I actually started to look into it and thought, is that a thing?
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So
tell me to shut up, by the way, because I'll just
no. This is your platform, bro.
I'll just talk. So
no, that's good. That's good. We're trying to get the full details. So don't feel like you need to hold back. But I don't know. You wanna come in on this one?
Yeah. So from the point that you've made up your mind to transition to where you are now, guide us through like the steps and process, like the beginning to end. Like, how did you begin the process?
So what happens is, basically, with the NHS now, because there's not the resources and not enough qualified people and not the funding and all these things to go into dealing with gender dysphoria. If you approach your GP or go through the NHS now, the likelihood of you being seen isn't before 20 years.
What?
Wow.
20 years.
So
It's a mortgage rate there, cause 20
obviously
years,
for a
cause-
lot of people feeling like that, they can't wait, they can't do
Yeah.
that. Like, this is why people are taking their own life, because they can't afford to go private, and they can't, the NHS are just, it's not there.
So wait, hold on. So you're saying before the first consultation, yeah, to sit down with Bilal the doctor and say, yo, I'm feeling different, it's 20 years. That's before intervention, any
Before even a consultation to assess
Before
you,
anything, it's 20
yeah,
years.
20 years.
because there's
Rishi
just...
Sunak, you know, slacking. Yeah, continue. Yeah, sorry, I
well,
just had to make that. Yeah,
I mean, he's making it worse. But,
we're gonna talk about the government as well, but yeah.
Yeah, so obviously then private sectors are obviously like, there's becoming more, but there's still obviously like not a lot, and obviously the world is becoming more accepting, so there are more people and coming out and wanting to, feeling comfortable and feeling okay to do that. So even if going private, you know, I think I waited probably 1 to 2 years before I got an appointment.
Was that with Bupa?
No, that was with something called Gender Care. And basically what happens is you have an initial consultation, which cost me about £600, and they assess you and go through everything and try and analyse how you're feeling. You know, do you need counselling? Do you understand this? Do you understand what's going on? How much do you understand what you're saying? Is it really something you want to do? Is it something that you need to talk about more? So they kind of then signpost you whether they think, right, no, you have got gender dysphoria, or we think you need more counselling, blah, blah, blah. So then after that, I was referred to an endocrinologist who sort of assesses your hormone levels and things like that.
Okay.
And then what they do then, so that was like another £600. And then what they do is they enter a shared care agreement with your GP to then provide you hormones. So at the minute I take like a vial of testosterone every 10 days. But if you've not got a supportive GP, and the GP decides, well, no, I don't agree with trans people, or you're not having that, they can stop it.
Swear.
So the GP has got a massive amount of power if they don't agree with people transitioning.
So just to interject there, what happens if you don't take the testosterone? Let's say you miss a month. What happens? Do you start to regress or not? Or what happens?
So your hormone balance anyway, if you mess with your hormone balance, it's unbelievable how much your hormones affect your personality.
Yeah.
So like, throughout my sort of like childhood, my mum would always say to me, ironically, I think your hormones aren't great, because I was always struggling with my mental health and stuff, and I couldn't manage my emotions. She was like, I'm sure you've got like a hormone mismatch or something like that. And since obviously taking hormones, I am like so mellow. I can deal with pretty much anything. Nothing. I can't cry anymore. Like, it takes a hell of a lot for me to cry now, whereas I used to cry like every day because I was struggling.
Cry every day before you transit when you was Jessica, yeah?
Yeah.
So now that you're big Jax, yeah?
Big Jax, yeah.
No more crying because you're a big man on the road
No,
side now.
I can't, honestly. I'll like, even if I need to. So I still get the feelings of needing to, if you like, when you feel like you're going to cry, you feel anxious, you feel like it's there. But what it'll do is it'll come and then it'll just like suck back in. I'm like, no, get it out.
The tear ducts don't want to release
and I
it,
can't get it out. So it takes a hell of a lot now for me to cry. And it's strange, and it's, a lot of it is because I'm so naturally happy. But a lot of it, even if I feel like I need to cry, it just won't come out. And that's probably why a lot of men obviously feel that way, because testosterone has such a massive impact. And if I didn't take it, for example, I wouldn't regress in terms of how I've developed, but it would have a massive impact on my mental health and my emotion. My emotion levels
again.
Yeah. So the effects of testosterone physically are irreversible. So say if I decided to detransition now.
What do you just call it? G transition.
If someone wants to
detransition, go back. Okay,
say if I it's not going to happen, but say if I decided this was wrong.
Yeah.
I couldn't now change the squareness of my jaw, where I grow hair, the change in my voice, where I carry fat, the size of my muscle mass, all these things, which is what makes it even more difficult physically for male to female, because if you've already gone through that puberty of testosterone, you cannot then reverse it.
Right.
So that's then very difficult, obviously, in another aspect of going male to female, because you've already developed a stereotypically masculine frame. You know, you've already growing hair on your face. You might have a deep voice, an Adam's apple, all these things. You know, men carry fat in on the stomach. Women carry fat on like the hips and the thighs. So all of these things make up who you are, how you're feeling, how you present. And once you've been through that sort of testosterone puberty, you can't reverse it. But if I did stop taking hormones, it would affect my body massively. It's like women when they go through the menopause, and it changes your body so much. So if my body would try and obviously start producing female hormones again.
Estrogen.
Yeah. And so my emotions would go all over the place. I might start having periods again, like all those things that would then not only make me feel incredibly uncomfortable, but mess up my emotions as well.
So let's just reel it back slightly. So obviously, just to recap what you said there, you went to the private doctor or GP or private healthcare. They did a little hormone test on you. Do you remember what the hormone readings were reading back then?
It's just to check that you're healthy in your bloods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't tell me that. They just check that you're okay to obviously start taking hormones.
And then from there, you went into the shared.
It's like a shared care agreement, yeah. So
yeah.
basically, that then allows the GP to provide you hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens then is every few months you have your hormone levels tested, so that to get my hormones, my testosterone levels to a level for the average 30-year-old male, so that it's in that aspect of what it would be. But for the first sort of 5 years, you basically going through puberty.
Okay.
So I'm only 3 years into transitioning. So I'm basically still going through puberty. I'm like a teenage boy. So in like the first 12, especially the first sort of 1 to 2 years, the change is unbelievable. Like I was shouting at prisoners and my voice was like hitting the roof and coming back down, and going through all those things. It's like going through puberty.
So what, you've been through the acne phase, the voice cracking?
No, because I invested in good skincare. But
okay.
But yeah, things like that happen. So like testosterone makes your skin really oily and stuff like that. So you've got to sort of take care of what's happening.
Okay. You wanna.
So how you said that, like your family said like about your hormones, how they think like that your hormones aren't like right and stuff. Did you have like your family support when you went through the transition phase?
And did you have any people drop out along the way, like non-believers and that, or was all your family members from cousin to auntie, everyone supportive? Or were they a bit skeptical at first?
I mean, no one's ever been like awful. Everyone has been incredibly supportive of me, and I think it's massively about, and it's obviously I experienced it with prisoners as well. Mm-hmm. It's massively about how you have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, when I first sort of came out to my family, they were absolutely terrified. And
what did they say? Do you remember what the first thing they said?
Yeah.
What did they say? What did they say?
So basically,
how did it happen? You like eating dinner and that?
No, it's right.
Little steak and potatoes and that.
So I'll give you a bit of context. So like,
yeah, go ahead.
Obviously 10 years previous, when I was 19, I'd come out as a gay woman, right? So I'd sat like my mum, dad, my brother and my sister, and we're like a really close family. And I'd sat them down, and I'd just joined the military, and I was terrified of telling them that I was gay. And I'm sat there and I'm like panicking, like crying, like squeezing my sister's hand, trying to tell him I'm gay. And my dad and I can only describe my dad, right, as like a blonde Peter Kay.
Okay, yeah.
He's like that's how he acts, that's how he talks, like that's his mannerisms, makes himself laugh, So we sat down, and I'm like crying, and he's like, "You gay, aren't you?" And I'm like,
what, before you even said it?
Yeah.
So he clocked the game. You knew what was going on.
And they were like, I was like, yeah, like I'm sorry, is that okay?
That must have been a relief though. That he even
and they
said
were like,
it before.
we know, like we've known for years. They obviously expected me to be a gay woman. Like I was this tomboy. They were expecting it. So obviously 10 years later, I sit them down again, and they're like, oh fucking hell, like what's happening?
What's Peter Kay saying this time?
What's happening, right? So he starts guessing again, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So
what kind of guesses he come out with?
He goes, "You pregnant?" I'm like, "No." Like, "You getting a puppy?" I'm like, "No." "You fancy men again?" I was like, "No." And then he goes, complete joke. He just goes, "You're not having a sex change, are you?"
Like, and what was your reaction when he said that?
And I was like, shit. Because he was joking. Like, that is the last thing he expected me to say. Like, he knew I was going to say something, but the last thing was, and I was just like, yeah, I am. And honestly, like, the colour, like, just drained from his face. Like, the shock in that room. The only person who maybe had, like, a slight inkling was my mum, but even she said, like, it was like getting slapped across the face, because the thing that hits parents or, like, loved ones when you have that conversation is fear. Like, how are you going to be treated, the abuse you're going to get, you know, like, trans people existence is questioned constantly within the media. Like, how are you going to live? Like, what's going to happen? And so they were just so shocked and terrified. And like, what do we do? My dad's first impression was, well, we're going to have to leave Wigan. Like, I'm going to end up punching everybody. Because instantly he just thought, you are going to get the world of abuse.
Yeah.
And my mum was like, life's hard enough, you know, like, life's going to be even harder, and you're going to go back into a prison. Like, what's going to stop 5 men dragging you in a cell and raping you and trying to prove you're still a woman? Like, how are you going to go back into a prison? Like, how are you going to navigate this? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I tried to go into it with the most understanding as possible, because they gave birth to a daughter. They named that daughter. You know, they had thoughts and dreams about that daughter. They've had a daughter for 28 years. Like, that's not just going to disappear, and I don't want it to. And as much as someone doesn't die, you have to grieve a person. Like, I've had to grieve Jess. They've had to grieve Jess. And...
What, you grieved Jess as well? But
you have to, like, you have to...
But
you have to, especially your parents and your family, you have to allow them to process the fact that they felt like they were losing a child.
Yeah.
They felt like they were losing a daughter. And you have to grieve that part of your life, but in no way, shape or form do I think Jess is dead. I was just like, I'm not killing her. Like, she's coming with me. Like, everything that Jess is and is with me. I just have to change. I just can't have her be the image anymore. And for a long time, they didn't understand that, and it was really hard. And my dad, especially, didn't want to let go of his little girl. You're like, you're my little girl, you know, how am I supposed to just call you he and Jax? And it's about allowing them to make mistakes and learn, and just allow them to go through that process. It's hard, you know, they still call me she now. It just goes over my head. There's no power in it. Like, it's not malicious. They try. All I needed them to do was just try, because I was at a point where I was like, it's a dead daughter or a living son. Like, I can't do it. I have to do this. And I don't want to die. So, like, I have to do this. And obviously, it's, you know, over the last 3 years, we've been on this massive journey, and they've realised that I'm so passionate about living a life true to yourself. And they've seen the light come back in their child's eyes, because they've watched all the struggles and the mental health and everything, and they just watched it start improving like that. And you think, if that's what your child needs to be happy,
support them, kind of
like,
thing, innit?
You love your kids unconditionally. That's it. And now the most amazing, they've always been supportive, but now they're like, my dad like does talks, you know, within work about it, and like so passionate about changing mindsets, and I've just taken them on that journey with me, and they're just incredible. So
when we go back to the initial break in the news, and your parents saying that obviously life is hard enough, and what will the people in Wigan think? Yeah. What were they thinking? Did they know about it, or did you guys keep it under wraps, or what was the inner community thinking?
What I did was I sent this big message to like all my close sort of family and friends. I made a YouTube video announcing it so that the whole prison knew before I went back.
Because you used to be a prison officer. Yeah. I don't think we introduced that bit, but...
Sorry, yeah.
So the audience will be wondering, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
But you used to be a prison officer in the UK prison system. Yeah.
So I was obviously a female prison officer for 3 years. This happened. I obviously went off sick before telling anybody for a month. Did all this, and then decided to go back. So that's what I did. And then people were incredible, to be fair, but I think that has happened because I've been passionate about telling everybody it's okay to make mistakes. Like, ask me anything, talk to me about anything, you know. I didn't have a clue about transitioning or transgender before I had to embark on it. So how can I expect anyone else to have a clue? Like, people don't look into things until it affects their life, until it hits their emotion, until they know someone. And then when that happens, and I started making all these videos and trying to inspire people, and try and tell people that it's not about gender, it's about life. Because we're all trying to constantly adapt to the changes in our life and transitioning in some way or another. That's what I'm passionate about, and it's just about doing what makes you happy. And the more people started to do this and watch what I was doing and all these things, people have been absolutely incredible.
Oh wow, that's great. So going back to the original question from Draay, so
Sorry.
you've gone through the consultation now.
Yeah.
So where are we now in the timeline of your transitioning? You've gone through the consultation. They've done the hormone checks.
Yeah.
Where are we now in the?
So I basically started taking hormones.
What kind of hormones are you taking? The testosterone.
Testosterone, yeah.
Is that it?
Just take testosterone.
Okay, yeah.
And depending on your levels and stuff like that, is how often you take it.
What milliliters? What is it? Milligrams?
It's just a mil of, I think it's called sustanol.
Sustanol.
And I sort of inject that every 10 days.
What in your arm? In your body?
No, I inject it in my leg.
In your leg? Okay. Yeah.
But you can do that. Yeah, you can put it in your body.
Are you scared of needles or not?
But no, I'm all right.
Okay. Yeah. Continue. That was the intrusive.
But yeah, when you like first start doing it, you're like, I have to stab myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of get used to it. So transitioning is different for everyone. So there isn't just one way to transition. Like some people want to sort of identify differently, but don't want to take hormones. Some people have surgery and don't take hormones. Some people have hormones and have surgery. Some people only have certain surgeries. You know, it depends on how you feel. For me right now, I needed to have chest surgery. That was like a massive thing for me. I wanted to be able to...
Before we get to that, because that's one of the...
Okay.
So you've done the injections now.
Yeah.
The testosterone injections.
Yeah.
How quickly did you see a physiological change in yourself? Because we'll get to the physical surgery bit.
So probably about 6 months before you start to see any major change.
And what was the first thing you noticed?
My voice. My voice started to change pretty quick. Yeah. My voice started to change. Obviously, about 6-7 months it took when I stopped having periods. My emotions, obviously, I was a lot calmer because before I was like so angry.
Yeah. Was you relieved not to have periods anymore? Because I've had girlfriends in the past and they've told me it's a Mazzolina, this period business, you know.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, of course.
I bet you saved a lot of money on the Tampax compacts as well, innit? How much are they? Like $9.99 or something. How much are they? Quite a bit of money.
No, you know what? It's just everything for me was a lot more mental.
Okay.
So like it was just the mental side of like I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to go through those emotions. It's all right. Like you have to answer. You have to ask these questions.
Yeah. People want to know.
You know, it was and for a lot of people, I think it's just the comfort of you associate that with being feminine and feeling female, and it's just a massive like I don't have to deal with that anymore. You know, because it's something that causes people a lot of like mental discomfort.
Yeah.
So things like that was happening. Obviously, you know, you start like getting the odd chin hair or, you know, just things like that you just start to notice.
So when you got like your first chin hair, did you like with enthusiasm show your parents or?
I mean, not just with one, but you do
What,
look at it.
some
Like you
stubble,
start looking and you're like, oh, is that just bum fluff or am I getting something? And you just really want it to happen all at once. But it's about finding the ability to enjoy the happiness in the little things every day.
In the little
being like,
follicle.
I look a little bit more like I want to look now, and that, you know, I've got that little bit, or my face looks a bit square, a bit more square, and just things like that. Because everything just changes so subtly. But when you look back, if you look back at pictures now, my face was a completely different shape.
What was it? Oblong, round?
It was just like more of like a heart shape.
Or was it?
Like here, where it like squares out your jaw and stuff like that, and your neck will thicken out a bit. And
so what? Because obviously your beard right now is serious, yeah.
Is it? Thank you.
Serious. So what? So what? You shave it now? You just leave it?
No, I mean I leave it. Really, it's still struggling. It's still struggling to get onto my face. 3 years in.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 3 years worth of beard.
Well, no, I've shaved it, but it still doesn't grow like round here. But I can see it slowly coming.
It's trying to catch up.
It's trying, yeah. You should shave it, I suppose, to make it grow more. But really, when you're going through, like, I don't want to shave it off.
In case it,
you know, because you want it. You want it, you know, because it makes you feel better. It's a little thing that makes you feel a bit more like you want to be.
So what kind of trim you get at the barbershops? What kind of trim you going for these days?
On my head, I don't have my face shaved.
Yeah, on your head top, because you got was that taper, skin fade, yeah?
Yeah, skin fade.
What are you getting on the sides? 1 or 0?
0.
0.
Buzz. Yeah.
Was it what do you call it?
Buzz.
Buzz.
Like completely
cut.
completely down to nothing.
Buzz cut.
Like skin
Yeah.
fade, like
I heard that in my life, bro.
proper down to nothing.
Yeah.
Skin fade, yeah.
And what, does your barber know that you've obviously transitioned?
Yeah,
or?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
But that's because I'm quite open about it. So, and I started going, obviously, like the first time I went into a barber's, I was a bit like, ooh,
Yeah.
you know, scared because I had never been to barbers before.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know, you know, what. And obviously at the beginning, I looked like Jess. I'd just shaved my head.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd just literally just shaved it all off. But I looked the same. Like, I still had boobs. I still had the same voice. I still had the same, like, feminine features.
And did you used to go to a hairdresser before that or not?
No, because my mum was a hairdresser.
Okay.
But I'd never been in a barber's before.
Okay, so it's a mother.
So I was, like, scared of what everyone was going to think, you know, and looking at me. And because when you're in that in-between awful stage, you feel like a freak.
Really?
Yeah, because you're like, I don't look like a woman. I don't look like a man. I just people are looking at me like, are you a boy? Are you a girl? Are you?
Yeah.
And you just feel like this alien, and like just start thinking, oh, no one's going to want to be my friend. No one's ever going to want to be with me anymore. Like, what's going to happen? Am I going to, you know? You just feel awful because you just feel like this in between. You feel like a freak.
Okay, so reeling it back in then to the core question, yeah. So we've gone through consultation, we've gone through the steroid jabs.
Yeah, steroids.
No, not steroids, testosterone jabs. Testosterone jabs.
Yeah.
What's next in the stage in the transition? For you anyway, what was next?
I think I'm spilling that. Sorry. For me, it was important for me to get chest surgery because, so I was like taping my boobs down with like rock tape. Because, and obviously I was like, it can put you in very dangerous situations. You know, like if I was in a prison, for example, and my shirt got ripped off, or, you know, going into a man's toilet, like, you just don't know who's against it and who's not, and should anything happen, and you can tell. People are really very much against trans people. You know, people are still sort of assaulted and murdered for these things. So it's, you know, it made me very like conscious about them. And I was obviously taping them down, so I like was covered in blisters from like ripping tape off and putting it back on and stuff. And so it was important for me to have that done. But in the UK, they sort of make you live as Jax for 12 months or something before they'll look at it. And so I went to America and had chest surgery.
She said, fuck that, straight to America.
Yeah. And that cost me about 10,000 for the surgery.
10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, little Honda Civic 2018 plate and that. Crazy. 10,000.
Yeah.
So what?
Exactly that.
So what? When you so let's go through it then. So what? You're on the Virgin Atlantic, going over to what state was
Miami.
it? Miami, yeah. Miami Beach and that, yeah. What was going through your mind at that time there?
Exciting.
Who was with you when you was going over?
My sister.
Just your sister.
Yeah.
No pops, no mumsy.
No, just my sister.
Did they not want to come, or was it just too much to
they
bring
were
them as
looking
well?
after my dogs.
Okay, looking after dogs. High priority. I like that.
Yeah.
So when you land in Miami, what's happening? What's going on?
Well, obviously, like, so I basically had to be there for 10 days.
Yeah.
I landed a couple of days before my surgery. We had to like go for a little like consultation and then go back on the day of my surgery. You have the surgery, and then I just had to be in Miami then and just like sort of rest and take medication and stuff for a week before I could fly back. Obviously, before I could get on a plane and stuff. But yeah, no, it was just excitement, to be honest. Like it was life changing. It's a lot of people don't see gender affirming surgery as life saving, but it is. It is massively life saving.
And was this with the same company that you done your initial consultations with in England?
No.
Or you found a completely new healthcare provider?
So basically, I did a lot of like research into surgeons who understood how important it was to create the aesthetic that I wanted. Like, there's a lot of people who
how to do the surgery good.
Yeah, like there's a lot of surgeries like frauding people because trans people are so desperate to have these things done. There's surgeons who have no idea what they're doing, and they're just like cutting you through across the middle and like or leaving you with no nipples or putting your nipples in like stupid places. And these surgeons are doing so many revisions because people are ending up looking worse off than before. And I was like, I'm going 27 years with a body I've been so uncomfortable with. I want to now build a body that I love. I want my scars to be under the pec muscles. I want to feel like it looks like I want it to look, like I've always wanted it to look. So this surgeon did like loads on TikTok and was like giving out loads of education and things that she was doing and stuff. So I think I followed her for about a year before I sort of like booked and was like, I'm confident in going having it done with this surgeon.
Mm-hmm. It's good you mentioned the horror stories because that was going to be one of my other questions. So
Yeah.
just quickly, just jumping into that briefly. Before you done your surgery, did you hear of horror stories
Yeah,
yourself
there's
in the
loads.
community?
There's when you look into it, you
Yeah.
you see some and you're like, oh my God, like that person has been going through hell and now they like feel even worse because you've just butchered them.
So like, what's the most common, like from what you see, the most common like doctor error, shall we say, in the transitioning? Like, is it what dealing with the breast? They cut it wrong or?
Yeah, so for example, my chest surgery is literally the scars are like underneath, as you can imagine, where
Yeah,
your
like
pecs
under
are,
the
underneath there, like, so then that allows me to then like build muscle. And the more I build the muscle, the more it would hide the scars.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like measuring where your nipples would then be, because basically they've got to take the nipples off and basically like cut your boobs out and then like pull that down and sew it up and then put your nipples where they would be. And I've seen like pictures of people and people that my surgeon has like done like fixed, and this person was like had just like two big scars like that way,
Yeah.
and then had put the nipples like there.
What about the belly button and that?
Yeah, and I'm
crazy.
like, how can you do that to someone?
Whoa.
Because they know there's money in it, because trans people are just desperate to have these things done.
Yeah.
Because they want to feel like themselves and they're so depressed. So people are making money off like ruining people's bodies.
That's crazy. So what did you have to invest in like an insurance or something, like a health insurance kind of thing before embarking on that in America? Because obviously they don't have free healthcare, do they? So
No, I basically just sort of saved the money to go and have it done. So it cost me about 15 grand to like go and being in Miami
and did you have a contingency plan in case it did go wrong, or did you not have one? No. You just YOLO'd it.
Yeah.
My brother, you know. I rate that still. So yeah, if you want to lick the next question, man.
Yeah, so with yourself being an advocate in the transgender community, when you were transitioning yourself, did you feel like there was enough advocates for it?
Similar to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Back then, was there anyone you could look up to?
A little bit, not massively. I mean, there's not a massive amount now.
Yeah.
It's really hard to gain the momentum, and as you both know, especially with like social media and stuff like that, to gain a presence and a following and to get yourself in places, it's difficult and it takes a lot. So, there wasn't someone having the conversations that I believe I'm having in terms of allowing people to make mistakes and like inspiring people that it's about life and not just the gender. And I never wanted to be in that box, so to speak. So I don't believe there was people out there, because that's who I found on YouTube and stuff like that. And seeing these people all over the world, become models or be doing this and doing that and building these bodies. So there were people out there, but there's definitely not enough. And I think it's important to be doing it in the way that actually creates change and helps people and doesn't just shout at people and makes people afraid of the conversation.
It's good you mentioned that, because obviously I personally believe open dialogue is the best kind of dialogue.
Yeah, exactly,
so
yeah.
being able to share opinions and share thoughts and not feel like, like triggered or offended, because obviously not everyone's going to have the same opinion or understand everything the same.
No, exactly.
So I think you're right there. So you're saying what, in the big 2024 now, February the 6th, 2024, yeah?
7th, I think.
The 7th, yeah?
So,
You're saying there's still not enough advocates who are doing what you do in the community.
No, like definitely not, because people are still terrified. Like, and not everyone needs to do this. It doesn't take that. It just takes us building that more of that visibility, because visibility is the thing that reassures someone that their life is worth living. So, like when I was a little girl, I couldn't dream of being a professional female footballer, because it didn't exist. Like, I could play football, and I could be like, oh, I love football, but by the time I was like 11 or 12, I couldn't play anymore, because you couldn't then dream of that being a career. Like, you had to prioritise other things.
Yeah.
Whereas now, little girls can see the women in like
Sam
World
Kerr
Cup and doing this and be like, oh my God, like if I work hard and I do this, I could become a professional, famous female footballer. So that, if you can't see it, you can't believe it. So my mission is to be, in magazines, on screen, for people to be like, that's me. that's how I feel. So that they can hopefully make those decisions and feel like and understand who they are and not go through all that turmoil of mental health struggles and not knowing who they are and trying to fill those voids and, you know, and see that and go, that's how I feel.
Okay, brilliant. Speaking of TV and magazines, if you just want to quickly touch on what have you done so far in terms of TV and magazine for the advocacy of your transgender movement? Like, what have you done so far?
So I basically started by just like sort of trying to build a social media, just making as much different things as I can, sort of talking about my journey, but obviously trying to relate it more to life and parents and the fact that it helps everyone around you. It transition doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. So I started to try and like go on as many podcasts as I can, reaching out to sort of different magazines who have covered my story, like
what magazines have you been on?
I'm trying to think now. It was because it was a few years ago. Like New, OK Magazine, like
OK
Take
Magazine,
Me Out
that.
Magazine,
Yeah.
like all those things. They're like the local newspapers and stuff. And then I started working with like different media companies, like who would, you know, we want to do a piece on what transitioning costs or just different things that have like helped me build and just networking and just trying to meet as many people as possible and just have that conversation. And then, obviously, as you know, I've just done the recent Channel 4 TV show, Banged Up, which is massively powerful because I'm not leading with, I'm trans. Like, that has nothing to do with it at all. Like, it weren't even mentioned. So, people can make assumptions when they hear the word trans or they go, oh, well, that's a trans story, I'm not interested in listening. But if they watch me say on Banged Up and was like, oh, he's nice, or he made me laugh, or I fancy him, or whatever... And then they look into it and go, oh, but he's trans.
Then they see your story.
Oh, but I already like him. So does that mean I'm all right? I've got to be okay with trans people then? Because they've already... It's very hard to unlike someone when you've like got to know them and then you find that out. Do you know what I mean? So my mission is to be... You know, I was on the front cover of Salon magazine and it had no words on it.
What, just your picture?
Just a picture of me, apart from like Salon.
Yeah.
And that's it. So when people pick up that magazine... You know, whether they like the look of me or not, they'll be like, all right, you know, cover model or whatever. And then they look inside, and inside there's this whole story. And be like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh, but I fancied him, so what does that mean? So and it makes people start asking the questions. It makes people be more open-minded because it hits them hits their emotion in a different way.
So from what you're saying there, is it better to judge someone from a blank canvas than opposed to having prior information?
Yeah, because if people...
Like, for example, just the picture of you on the cover with no background information or anything. Like you said, if they like you, they like you. And then if they find that out at a later date, they're stuck in like a conundrum kind of thing.
Yeah, because a lot of people, if they disagree with or believe that transitioning is wrong, they will make that assumption and go, well, I don't want to listen to that story. I don't want to listen to that speech. But if they don't know what it's about and then they hear the story and it hits them or it relates to them, or relates to someone they love, or, you know, makes them think, actually, I'm really happy in my marriage, you know, and I'm not living a life true to myself at all. And it hits their emotion related to something completely different in terms of adapting to change. They start to relate to it because it hits their emotion. And they hear real life stories and they see my parents or my family, or, you know, they'll watch me on different things and they'll think, oh, but you can have that relationship with your sister, or you can have that career, or you can work in a prison, or you can be okay. You can do this and it's okay. And actually, I'm just a normal person. And it's just about what prisoners realised by me taking them on the journey is human struggling. And that's all it is. That's all it's about.
Wow. So it's good you mentioned the prisons. So let's briefly touch on that. Like, a lot of people, I imagine, haven't been to prison before. So what is the UK prison service like? You spent, what, 4 years in the prison service?
6.
6 years in the prison service. Like, what's it like for people who've never been to prison? And then break down what it's like for a person who's transitioning as an officer.
So, I mean, I loved being a prison officer. Like, I really sort of enjoyed the job. I think there's a lot of fulfillment in it. But it's also very dangerous. You know, as you know, like the ratio from prison officer to prisoner is like 1 to 40. So, you know, if you've got a prison landing of, you know, 200 men, there's 5 officers on that landing to sort of maintain that. So it can be incredibly dangerous, but it can also be a lot of fun. And if you can maintain a sort of persona of not feeling like you can just speak to people like shit and actually give them respect because they've been judged already, and you're there to basically be everything, you know, mum, dad, therapist, fireman, policeman, shoulder to cry on, punch bag, whatever it is. You're everything to a prisoner, aren't you? So you've got to be there every day. You've got to, you know, try and make it the best environment that you can. And it's very hard to help people change and rehabilitate, but you can change the sort of 1% of people if you've got the time and the space to do that, which obviously is very hard with so little staff, because it's massively understaffed, which is a shame.
So if you don't mind for the audience, what prisons have you worked at, or do you work at? Like what cat?
I started at Liverpool.
What's that? Cat be local?
Which is a local, yeah. And then I moved to Hindley, which was a youth offenders, but also holds Cat C men. But the unit that I then went on to work on held pretty much every crime apart from sexual offences, because it was a pipe unit, which is a psychologically informed planned environment, which basically catered for prisoners who were on the personality disorder sort of scale, or like hadn't dealt with their own trauma and were sort of stuck in the system and didn't really understand how to like maintain their emotions or their relationships and stuff like that. So that was like a lot more in depth and sort of psychologically intense.
So on a pipe unit, is the regime and how a prisoner's day-to-day life, does it differ from the standard? What's the difference? Like, so how do you guys, let's say 8 a.m. you come in on a landing, what do you do differently compared to the rest of the
obviously
jail?
On a big wing, you have a set regime for that day, so you'll unlock for morning domestics and then lock back up, and then unlock for movement, and people go off to work and different things, and that is basically your day, morning and afternoon, and then sort of evening association or whatever. On a pipe unit, it's more about building an environment for them to learn a lot about themselves. So because it's a lot more intense and a lot more like mentally draining for the staff rather than physically draining on a wing, you'll have that pipe unit would only cater for 10 people.
Is it?
Because they are literally there all the time, like they need that from you all the time. You're constantly trying to, you know, make them sort of show them the mirror of themselves in terms of, it's very, very mentally exhausting because they're just like up and down like a bottle of pop, and like it's whereas you might have like one or two of those type of people on a big wing, they're all there in this tiny environment, and you're trying to do groups with these people and teach them about emotions and resilience and relationships, and you know, you act like this because when you was a child your parents did this, and all these different things that you're basically formulating their psyche on.
So you as a normal officer, you're doing all that kind of like psychological, like psychologist work, yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you get separate training for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it in-depth training or just a brief little 1 week, couple of days training?
No, it's not. It's just like a couple of days training, but I'm like, and obviously because of what I was going through as well, I was really passionate about understanding people and and you know, the emotional intelligence side of things. So obviously when I went back into that unit and started speaking to these people about having to do the hard things to change your life, and having to look in the mirror, and having to learn that being vulnerable is the best and strongest thing you could ever do, started to give them the courage that it's never too late to change your own life.
Oh, wow.
Because they were watching me in this like most vulnerable position I could ever be in, be like, well, if you can walk back into a prison and then do what you're doing, but then tell us about it and help us, then I can change my own life, and I can stop being ashamed of my scars, and I can realise that there's nothing more powerful than being unapologetically yourself, and realising that everything that you've been through makes you, and you have to use it and use it as your strength, and you can change your life if you really want to, if you really want to do it, but it's hard and it's terrifying, and you have to look it straight in the face.
So on this pipe unit then, what was there any self-harm on there compared to the average wing, or?
Yeah, a lot more.
A lot more, yeah?
Yeah.
So just 10 prisoners, what?
Yeah.
About 8 of them are on a suicide watch thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these like I said, it's a lot more intense, and because they're then on a unit where they have to face their own shit all the time, it creates a lot more like I'm going to, whereas they might have acted like that maybe once every 2 months on a wing, they're feeling those things every day. So they're having to like self-harm and then deal with it and then talk about it. Whereas on a wing, they'd be like banged up or like left or, you know, dealt with in a different way. On that unit, you're talking to them and you're making them have the conversation. Like, why did that happen? What is this? Why are you feeling like this? What? And they're breaking it down constantly. So it's like making people, it's like creating emotional reactions so that they will deal with it, if that makes sense. Because they're in such an intense environment, it's happening a lot quicker.
So they can't escape it, kind of
They
thing.
can't
have to
escape it. Yeah, they
face
can't
or-
suppress it.
Yeah,
They have to
yeah,
face it all the time.
So when we talk about the UK prison system as a whole, from your experience being on the inside, has it done enough for the transgender movement, or is there still more that could be done, or has nothing been done? What do you think? Let's say for transgender prisoners, for example, from what you've witnessed, if you've witnessed any. Obviously, you was a transgender officer yourself.
Yeah, I haven't. To be honest, I haven't. I mean, you know, I haven't had any experience with transgender prisoners. Obviously, I was working in a male prison, and there wasn't any transgender prisoners in there. But it's a very difficult question to talk about in terms of trans prisoners, because there has to be a hell of a lot of consideration, because people will try and play the system to either get gender care paid for, or to sort of, you know, put other prisoners in a lot more danger if that person really isn't. And, you know, they have to go through a hell of a lot of testing to make, are you really doing this, or are you doing this to potentially, you know, attack or assault someone else? Do you know what I mean? In terms of like male to female.
Yeah.
If a man gets arrested and then goes, yeah, but I'm trans, you can't then just put him in a female jail.
Well, you don't think so?
No, absolutely not. Because he might not be. He might just be saying that to go and attack
Clark down the
females.
girl limit.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah, what? That's mad, because so you know the part of the community that's saying that raw. Whatever I identify as, that's it. You're saying otherwise.
No.
So what steps do they need to go through to be?
So they have to have like,
from your perspective, to be approved. Like if they, let's say they go through the court system and they say they're a female,
yeah.
coming from male. What, in your eyes, what do they have to do to actually get into that female prison?
In my opinion, they would have to go through a hell of a lot of assessment from professionals to sort of actually acknowledge, is this person, you know, really going through this? Is this person gender dysphoric? Are they, you know, a certain way into that journey? Do they have, you know, do they have this diagnosis? Do they have a gender recognition certificate? You know, all these things that they have to sort of look at as an overall picture and go, is this a safe thing to do for the person and for the prisoners they will be with?
Okay. So you're saying it's not enough just to turn up in the Old Bailey and say, yo,
Absolutely not.
I'm a girl now.
Absolutely not. Whatever you just said, absolutely not.
Just say I'm a female now. Yeah.
No, that's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah. Go on, jump into the next one. Number three.
Number 3.
Obviously, the notes are comprehensive, innit? But
Do you think the UK government has done enough to recognise the LGBTQ community? And if not, what do you think they should include?
as obviously we mentioned Rishi Sunak earlier. Has the UK government
Me and Rishi
recognised?
Sunak will come face to face one day.
Yeah, have the UK government done enough for you guys, or is there more to be done?
Absolutely not.
And if so, what needs to be done?
Rishi Sunak made a comment a few months ago,
I think I know where you're going with this comment. I think I heard it as
basically
well.
saying a man is a man, a woman is a woman.
Yeah, I heard that as well, yeah.
And what he doesn't realise is, number one, by saying that, he is giving permission for people who are against this to attack trans people, verbally or physically. He's allowing people and giving those people permission to carry on that conversation. What he also doesn't think about is the fact that his children will listen to him say those words, and they're going to listen to him and go, right, well, unless I fit into this heteronormative smack bang in the middle line and don't veer from it, you are not someone I can come to. And when a child or someone doesn't feel loved, accepted and safe, and feels like they cannot go to the parent or someone they love and tell them those things, what they'll do instead is self-harm, is take drugs, is suppress their feelings with something else because they feel like it's not okay to be themselves. Because these politicians and all these people, they preach that they love their children unconditionally, but they can't be trans. Well, that's not unconditional love then.
Yeah, there's a condition on it.
So, you know, these people talk about these things, but one day it's going to affect someone they love. So if your child comes up to you tomorrow and says, I either take my own life or I transition, what's your answer then?
Yeah, you got a little. What if though you ain't got the money though? Then what? Because you said it's $10, isn't it? £10,000.
No, but I mean in terms of acceptance.
Oh yeah, acceptance. Yeah.
In terms of allowing your child to be who they feel they are, in terms of, you know, I want to identify, I want to dress as, I want to do this, I want to do that. If his children are watching him say those things, they're looking at him and go, well, I can't come to you.
Yeah, you make a good point. So on the government topic then, like in terms of the logistics of how we operate as a society, what's your take on like, for example, going to the toilet, for example? I know you mentioned earlier about feeling strange going to the toilet. Should there be separate toilets for each kind of category, or
no? I think it should just be toilets with cubicles, doors that you can lock.
So anyone could just walk in there, yeah?
Yeah, because if someone wants, I'm telling you now, if someone wants to assault someone, they're going to do it. You don't need to dress up as a woman and go into a woman's toilet to attack someone. If someone is going to do these things, they're going to do it, whether they can go in a certain place or not. It's not like you have to dress up as a woman and go into a woman's toilet. That's the only place you can ever attack a woman.
Yeah.
That they're going to do it. It's going to happen. So you can just go to the toilet and lock the door.
That is what all
That's
the
it.
toilets at my uni are like. They're just cubicles. It's not like gender. It's unisex. Everyone goes in. They're all cubicles. There's no urinals.
Like there doesn't need to be open changing rooms or open toilet.
Yeah.
It's just a cubicle. You just go and lock the door.
It's overcomplicating things. Really, if we literally just had cubicles, it'd be so simple.
So has the government brought that? Does that not exist?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of spaces like that, but like you
it's
said,
obviously
I don't
starting
know.
to be put into place.
So they're at Coventry University at the minute then,
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is good, yeah.
And you haven't heard of any other social setting where they exist, as far as you know?
I mean, there are places, but not there's not a lot of places where there isn't a clear sort of. Most places still obviously have clear different in toilets.
Yeah, all public places. The only place I've seen is obviously where I go to school.
Yeah. But you don't know what someone's going through. You don't know what stage they're at. I used to get shouted at. I wasn't even transitioning.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why people get so rah about these things, because they just go to the toilet. Just go to the toilet. That's it. Go to the toilet and leave.
I'm liking that. So from your perspective then, at what age would you see, as a society, at what age would we deem it like appropriate for someone to begin their life-changing journey? Obviously, you said you started yours in your mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's cases where children, shall we say, are starting it at like 8-9 years old. Are you with that, against that? Should there, as a society, should we cap it at a particular age, a minimum age where they can begin this?
Yeah. So children can't physically start transitioning.
Okay. Yeah.
They can't. They can't do that. Because there's obviously a lot of like dangers in there where your body's sort of developing. What I think with children is we need to stop putting children in boxes. Like they don't have to decide. Like if they want to play with that or dress like that or behave like that, just let them. They'll figure it out. Like I said, if a child feels loved, accepted and safe, they will thrive and they'll figure it out. They don't have to go, oh, I am this, I am that, and then can't change. They're going to change their mind 1,000,000 times. They're a kid. In terms of people really disagreeing with hormone blockers, what that does is it doesn't create any change. It just allows a child or a teenager to have that little bit more time to figure it out, because once you start going through that puberty, like I was talking about before, you can't reverse it.
Point of no return.
So then you're having to then have surgeries and do these things, and it's completely unique to every different person and every, what they're going through. And you just don't know. That's what professionals and counsellors and all these things are for. But hormone blockers will just allow someone a little bit more time to actually prevent that puberty from happening. To then, if they get to a point where they're 16 and they've been on puberty blockers for 2 years and they've not started puberty yet, and they're absolutely dead set, like, this is right for me, and you've seen that from them being a child, and you think, actually, this really is who they are, then they then have an opportunity to say, female, to start taking testosterone and just go through a male puberty and not have to grow boobs, not have to do those things, or in another sense, a little boy, then growing her in places and bigger builds and all these things that he then can't reverse because it's very, very difficult to try and go through that. And it's very hard for male to female because they are built bigger, or they've got these things where you can't stop growing hair and you can't change your voice and you can't. It then puts them in a more dangerous situation because they're more, obviously looking trans, whatever that means, but highlights them to people who then disagree, who then might attack them.
So in your mind, then, what would you say is like the youngest, like kind of appropriate age to start ad blockers and the things you just mentioned? Is there like a limit on that?
I think if a child is sort of, because it's different for everybody, isn't it? When you start puberty, I think if that child has been struggling for a period of time, like as they've grown up and they feel like something might not, if that's something that they feel they need to question, then that's obviously a decision for them and the parents, knowing that child, and if they're starting to sort of show signs where they're going to start beginning puberty and they're struggling with that, then that might be an alarm bell of going, do we need to look at this? But like I said, it's completely individual for every different person, so I can't really speak for them, but it's difficult. It's a difficult question because you've got to take into consideration the health of a child and what everything.
Because from my own research, I've heard rumors. Well, not rumors, but I've heard some people come out and say ad blockers actually have an irreversible effect on, like, when you pause someone's body clock, it has like an effect down the line. I don't know if you share that similar sentiment.
From what I know, no.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go on to the next question. So in terms of the UK government, obviously, I think they're trying to introduce like the LGBTQ.
I've just realised that we've not actually
Eh?
we've not actually spoke about the hats.
The helmet. What do you want to ask me, big man? You're on the centre stage now. Ask me.
Why are you wearing the helmets?
Because obviously,
how have I gone this far and I'm not like, why you got a helmet on, bro?
Because we're divulged in you, bro, and we're trying to understand you. That's why. But I've got this helmet on here, so all the information that goes into my head don't leave. That's why.
I only noticed because I think it's starting to do your head in.
Now you know what it is. In here's hot in it. So obviously, I just came from the battlefield, yeah, and it's hot there and it's hot here in it. So I'm just trying to adjust it for comfortability. You see me? Obviously, boss man behind the camera might need to open a window soon, but we'll get to that. But yeah, as I was saying, as I was saying, yeah. So in terms of like what the UK government's trying to do, or what I think they're trying to do, I don't know if you've seen recently, they're bringing the LGBTQ like teaching education into like infant school and that. Obviously, that's created some uproar from the parents, and some who are for it, some who are against it. Some who just think that schools just to teach maths and English, they shouldn't be bringing that into school. What's your take on that? Is it a positive step forward by the government? Or?
Yeah, of course. I think it's really important to. It's not about like people think, oh, you're teaching primary school kids about sex. No, you're not. All they're doing is just teaching people that it's okay to embrace both your masculine and feminine traits, and it doesn't define who you are. And just be you. Whatever makes you happy, just be you. Whoever you fancy, or are attracted to, or want to wear, want to play with, how to dress, how to behave, just be you. That is the education. It's not about sex. It's not about any of that. It's just about being authentically yourself to try and prevent bad mental health in the future. Okay,
so you're saying, so that little initiative there from the government, your thumbs up for that one, yeah?
Yeah.
What else are they doing, or do they need to do then? Because obviously you said before they ain't doing enough, so they're trying to bring it in schools. You're giving that a thumbs up. That's a good effort. What else would you like to see? Let's say in 20 years, what would you like to see the UK have in store for the transgender community? That's not here right now.
I don't.
Obviously, we talk about the toilets.
It's just about
what
it's just
what
about
else?
creating safe environments, and that's all it needs. Whether that's in a home or in a workplace or in a school, if somebody feels like they can come to you and say, "I feel like this," and that's okay, people will thrive in that environment. That's all. It's about creating an energy of acceptance, so that everyone, so that eventually the majority in that room will feel like that. So then when people come in and go, I don't agree with that, they'll stand out like a sore thumb because everyone's like, we're not like that here. And eventually you eradicate those beliefs. But it starts with just trying to create and embed those values in whatever place, room that you're in, and then spread it out. Because as soon as it affects someone's life, someone they love, which it will, like the people who give me hate on the internet all the time, like, you need to kill yourself, you need electrocuting, you're sick. That's fine. Because in 5 years' time, they'll come back to that video and thank me for what I did, because it's going to affect someone they love. So that's fine. I'm happy. Have that opinion. But it'll smack you in the face one day.
Well, has anyone ever said anything up to you in your face? Or it's just online, just the trolls online and that?
Just online, really.
Yeah, they ain't got the stomach, can it?
No.
They know you box them up, innit?
Well, yeah, I would, but no one's ever said anything like that to my face.
So you haven't really had no up close and personal bad experiences then, really, just online stuff.
Yeah, just
you can
online.
just brush that off with it.
Because the thing is, with me, and that's my mindset going back into a prison was, if you can allow yourself and the people closest to you to take the piss out of your biggest insecurities, no one in this world can touch you. So that's it.
That's serious. I'm reading that still.
I'm happy. You're clearly not. The majority of people who are homophobic are gay. But the thing is with trans people is they remind people that actually it's possible to be unapologetic. And it reminds you that you're not being. It reminds you that you're not doing the hard things, you're not doing what scares you, you're not doing all those things. So it just makes people really angry. So if you want to feel like that, that's fine. But when it really hurts someone you love, or you might feel like that one day, you'll come back and rethink it.
So I don't know if you're in touch with the news recently, but it was big all over the headlines where those 2 teenagers killed that. Oh, you know about it?
Yeah, I'm doing an event, yeah.
About that incident, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, in my mind, those 2 individuals who committed such a heinous crime, is the parenting of those 2 individuals partly to blame, or is it just them, like you said, not being in an environment where everyone's accepting of that? Like, is it because so Brianna? So I know her mum. Like, I'm doing an event next week raising money for the foundation that her mum's created. But Brianna wasn't murdered for being trans. That was just part of who she was. Okay. So the news are just plastering that wrong then?
So I can't comment. I mean, it's definitely... I definitely can't comment on parenting and everything I don't have a clue about.
These criminals? You don't think these criminals...
All I know is that the people who commit... The kids who committed those crimes, I think one was... I think there was a kill list. I think they were looking at dark things on the internet about killing, about murdering. I think it was a lot more to do with... I think they had a list of people who, they wanted to do it to. And, unfortunately, Brianna was the person that they convinced to meet them in the park. So, whatever the circumstances, whatever the reasons, it's absolutely disgusting and awful. I cannot comment on, the parenting of those children because you don't know what's going on in that child's head. It's very, very difficult to monitor what a child is looking at on the internet, what a child is being influenced by, who that child is talking to. And what they're thinking and how they're feeling. And if they're not communicating that, you wouldn't have a clue if your child's a serial killer.
Yeah. So what are your plans for the future? Is there anything that we should be looking out for, like that event that you were just talking about?
So the event that I'm planning is in Manchester on Sunday the 18th of February. And Brianna Jai's mum, Esther, has basically created a non-for-profit foundation that is called Peace of Mind UK. And that's basically raising money to... teach and provide every school in the country with a mindfulness teacher to teach children about looking after their own mental health and learn about having empathy and understanding for other people to try and prevent horrendous attacks like that from happening again. So that is what it's a benefit concert. So we've got like a range of performers from like comedians, drag artists, singers, all these different things, basically volunteering the time to put on a benefit concert to raise money for that.
Okay, obviously time is of the essence, yeah? So I'm just going to break this down into 2 parts now, yeah? What I want to know is, obviously, you gone through transition, yeah? So the nana is not there anymore. It's been cut out, or is it still there?
The what?
The panani. Is it been cut out, or is it still there?
Okay, right. No, firstly, I wouldn't advise asking people that. I'm happy to talk about it, but I wouldn't advise asking anyone else about that because in a pub, you wouldn't be like, all right, bro, you still got a dick?
Yeah.
You wouldn't ask anyone else that, would you? So for a trans person, it's not really fair that they have it asked of them. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people won't be as open about it. Won't want. It's not like it puts them under pressure, and it's not.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
I wouldn't advise asking someone that. But no, I haven't had bottom surgery. It's about 60 grand. It's about
$60.
It's about 4 surgeries, and right now it would put a lot of pause on my life, and it's not as progressive as I would like it to be to put myself through that right now.
Yeah.
So is it possible to sculpt a penis and put it on or not? Does that exist in the surgery?
It takes a massive so they would basically chuck a massive chunk of my arm off to like.
And make the schlong with that? Yeah.
Make a schlong, yeah.
But does it operate like fully? Would it operate?
I think they're close to being advanced, but it's not in a place right now where I would put myself through it for the stage that it's at, and it's like about 4 surgeries.
So
Okay, so do you have anything else you want to say
Wait,
to our
wait,
viewers
wait,
before we cut this off?
Come on,
Because
I'm gonna have to
Francis
get
is
me a
letting his
taxi.
internal thoughts get out, and it's stressing me out a bit. My hands are sweating.
I
Can
can't
you feel
miss
it?
this train.
Yeah.
wait. So I want to ask now, because obviously you're a female that transitioned to male, yeah.
Yeah.
You like females.
Yes.
So
Straight male.
they're straight males or you're straight male.
I'm a straight male.
So you're not gay anymore.
No,
No, because he's a man.
because I'm
now.
attracted to women, and if women were attracted to me, they're still a straight woman.
Okay.
Because the body parts go out the window. Like, if you're sat in a pub, right, and you're attracted to women, right? If you're say a woman who is attracted to men, right? 2 men walk into a pub. She doesn't look at them both and go, "I fancy him because he's got a penis."
Yeah.
She'll look at both them men and go, "Oh well, he's made me feel good. He's made me smile. He's good looking. He looked at me in a nice way," because it's all about energy and presence. And once that's there, that doesn't go away. So since I've transitioned, I've only ever been with straight women, and they've said to me, even when I still had boobs and like I was incredibly uncomfortable, they were like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're so masculine, and you make me feel so feminine. That's all it is.
So
This is your last question because I've got to go.
All right, let's do.
The last question should be, do you have anything to say to the audience?
Wait.
Francis, I'm taking over now, yeah?
Wait.
This is a 50-50 thing, yeah?
on.
You've had the whole episode. Shush your mouth now, yeah? Is there anything you need to say to the audience before you go? Anything you need to let them know before we say goodbye to our first ever guest? And probably our last after this.
No, you're a
I'm good, thank you.
motivational coach, yeah?
Flipping
So
out.
tell them, yeah, what's the key to being positive? Because you're a very positive individual. But that's a good question. I wanted to ask that. You're a very positive individual, yeah? And obviously, through my diligence in my research, I see you do the motivational coaching thing. Just tell the audience, just to finish off, what's the key to being positive, and how do you achieve that on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's really important to remember that life is going to be hard anyway. So it's going to be really hard if you suppress who you are and conform to society. And it's going to be really hard if you be unapologetically yourself and do everything that scares you. But there's only one of those paths that will actually lead you to happiness. So you have to remember that you are the revolution that you're waiting for, and everything is scary. Change is terrifying, but you just got to do it scared.
And is it easier to do this on your own or have people, like-minded people around you with the same positivity?
It's absolutely vital to have the right people around you, the people who really care about you and have your best interests at heart. That is the most important thing, because I couldn't have done this on my own. I've been lucky enough to have this amazing friends and family, so that is the most important thing ever.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
I'll let you finish off now, because I'll ask my questions.
I think let's a round of applause, and thanks for being our first guest.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I didn't realise I thought you was just doing an hour because you've got like loads of guests.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Nah, but you know what it is? Obviously, when the thing started, we just had to get more, bro. We had to get more, because you're a star.
I'll come back.
You're saving the world, my brother. But yeah, that's been the Funny Francis and Draay podcast. I've been Funny Francis.
I've been Draay.
And obviously, this is
Draay just sat there because Francis wouldn't shut up.
obviously our guest here, Jaxon, who needs to go catch the train now. And yeah, thank you very much, guys.
I might go with him.
The Funny Francis and Draay podcast.